everyone, this is going to be my starter for the third edict patch 0.3. I'm actually going to be creating a Bloodmage for the start of this league. And I was weighing up between Stormweaver and Bloodmage quite a bit. But I think Bloodmage is just looking way too strong with a couple of the changes that they've made to the Ascendancy. So it's going to be quite interesting for me to actually show you the changes that have been made here and kind of why I'm going to go into it, because it does make quite a difference in terms of the damage that we can probably get out of this version than what we're seeing with Blood Mages from previous leagues, especially in the early game as well. We're going to have a much better time leveling to the point where we probably don't even need to level with Lich. We can just go straight from Blood Mage to start with. So this is going to be a Bloodmage Spark with cast on crit, and we're going to incorporate Arc into it as well. I'll just talk about some of the major changes with it, then I'll go with some of the skills and take you through the leveling, passive tree, and all that sort of stuff. So the biggest thing with the patch notes is the Sunder of the Flesh. This one here, this Sunder of the Flesh, is going to be moved to here, to Gore Spike. And also, we get Sanguancy for free. So essentially, this base crit chance is going to be the first 2 points we can take. We don't need to get this Gore Spike crit. And then we can go Vitality Siphon, Grasping Wounds, and Crimson Power, which this node right here unlocks an insane amount of power for the build, which I will show you in due time. So the Ascendancies are pretty straightforward. We get the 8 points. So it's going to be Sunder of the Flesh, Vitality Siphon, Crimson Power, and we are then going to be looking at getting essentially as much life as we can for the build. So as you can see here, we have 5.5k. This is with quite insane gear in the end game. And as I take you through the skills and the passive tree and the gear, you'll kind of see why this life total is so broken with the kind of interactions that it has. So I'll just start with the skills. These are kind of placeholders. They're obviously going to be subject to change. So we're going to start with Spark, Acceleration. I want to try out Gamble Shot. I've seen a few people using this and I want to see how it goes. Basically, gives it kind of a Fort Chain Pierce combo that may be good enough so you don't need to grab anything else. So I just want to try that out. Mobility is obviously going to be really nice with the movement. I've just chucked Arcane Tempo in here, but I'm still not sure about what I'm going to do for my 5th and 6th slot here. Then we have our Cast on Crit with Arc, Energy Retention, Impetus, and again, not sure what I'm going to do for 5 and 6 here, but I'm going to give an update after the first day anyway, so you'll be able to see kind of what I'm going with that. But that's kind of the plan for now. And then we have Orb of Storms. Orb of Storms in here. Lightning Exposure, don't really need it, I guess, because I've got the Amulet, the Chayol Amulet, so you don't really need to put this in, but I definitely want to go with an Orb of Storms and Overabundance, I think, just to maybe get some infusions going. So I'm just going to start this as a base line for what we want to get here. And there is going to be some extra supplementary skills. I'm going to put in maybe some minion spell damage, stuff that we can add in, but I haven't really got that extra stuff. Obviously the Sigil of Power, might be able to put that in with the staff, but I haven't made this too complicated. These are just the main things to get it going, just to see if it's going to work like that. Next thing I'm going to show you is the gear. So again, I've actually cranked this gear up to almost mirror tier just so I could see what it would kind of look like. You obviously don't have to get the gear to this level. But we'll start with kind of the most important unique here, which is the Wrathpith Globe, which is this one here, and this is what's going to make the build a powerhouse. So people have been running this build in last patch with about 2.5k life, 3k life, and it looks like they're doing some really good clear with it. But the two lines here, the 5% increased crit per 100 life and the 10% increased damage per 100 life, obviously is going to give us 250 to 300 crit hit chance, and 500 to 600% increased damage, which is going to be all the fight damage we're going to need. Now we do have a bit of a downside with the additional 6% life, but with the Vitality Siphon and our other unique Zero Security, we should be able to offset this to the point where it is fine. We might not need to even run a Zero Security. We'll have to see how we go with that. Around this, I've just got Wand with extra Fire, Cold, Lightning, plus the spells, crit hit chance, cast speed. You obviously don't need something this strong, but you can kind of pick and choose, but they're the items we're kind of looking for. Every piece of gear here, we're going to have max life and high S. Going to shove some Chaos Res in. If we've got room for it, we're going to put strength on it. But I put this just together just as like an idea of what we want with that one. And then maybe some endgame Grand Spectrum rubies. They do provide us quite a bit of life. You see we've got 5.5k here. If I take these off, 4.7. So I don't know if it's necessary, but I'm going to test it out, see how we go. Maybe I'll pivot into something else when we get to that point. And the passive tree looks a bit like this. A lot of travel nodes. When we want to spec into this, we want to get a lot of strength, but we still want to have enough int to maintain our gem requirements. I'm not sure on the numbers in terms of how much we're going to be lowered for something like Spark level 20. I don't know if it's going to cost 205. It might be a bit less, but we can obviously mix and match this as we need it with the strength and int, and that's the same on gear as well. But we want to get as much strength as we can because that'll give us more life, just the way the strength passive kind of gives it to us. But we do come down to Blood Magic here. We're going to get this fairly early into the build now. And this is kind of the end game setup we're looking to do. There's a few flex points here. Not sure if we're going to need this leech node over here. We might pick up something like Wild Storm. We might do some specking around here if we don't want as much ES. But this is kind of the base foundations that I'm going to be aiming for. Now, obviously, we haven't actually got given the new passive tree. So this is just based off what we know from before. There's going to be a ton of changes on this. But this is what we're kind of looking at. And I will adjust this into the new one once we get that as well. I just wanted to quickly talk about Crimson Power here. So what this says here is gain additional maximum life equal to 100% of the energy shield on equipped body armor. So the body armor we go for here is going to be just a high ES body armor. So, you know, between 900 to 1000. This is obviously really, really highly rolled. So maybe 800 is okay as well with the life roll. So we, as you can see here, 5.5k life. If we drop this, goes down to 3.8, and it significantly lowers our survivability and all of our scaling from our Wrathpith globe. So that is going to be, you know, kind of the purpose of getting that high ES life chest piece for that one. All right, guys, so let's talk about leveling with this build. Now, again, we don't have the passive tree. I'm assuming it's going to come out on release, but I have put together kind of a setup you can use on the old path of building. So if you just have a look down here, I've got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, 54 points, and then 85 points. So you just select Act 1 and you can go skills, leveling. So I kind of give you kind of a run through of those, and you can go leveling items as well. Now, it's not got each incremental stage, but it's going to give you kind of a gauge of each process. I think the passive tree is pretty solid though. So you want to come through here, grab these extra damage nodes as quick as you can. That's Act 1. When we're going to jump into Act 2, running straight for all natural. So I'd come through here, grab all natural, then pick up potent incantation for the extra spell damage. Act 3, we basically rush to branching bolts. And this is probably when you're going to be picking up Blood Mage as well around this sort of stage, and you'll be getting this Hunter of the Flesh. Remember, this is going to be here. You're going to get Sangomancy for free. So your first 2 points will be able to get your base crit to 15, and that'll be, you know, quite handy for us going forward, because as you'll see, we'll start getting some crit. Then I've got 54 points here. We're going to pick up Lightning Quick, and we're going to start getting some crit nodes. So this actually changed down here a bit. Slight little respec over here. And you go through the crit here, pick up this crit here, pick up the attack and cast speed and the LE damage crit here. And this should just be feeling nice in the leveling process. And I think you're going to get a real power spike when we hit that first ascendancy there. Then I've got the 85 points. This is going to be, you know, somewhere past, a little bit past endgame, past the campaign, maybe getting into maps, and we are hopefully going to be able to get Blood Mage pretty much as soon as we get our second ascendancy, which is going to be Vitality Siphon. So once you get Vitality Siphon, grab the Blood Mage, and you can just fill out a bit more damage. We don't have the Wrathpith yet, most likely, so getting the increased damage is going to be quite solid, and maybe filling out a bit more crit and a bit more ES. And then this transition from this to the end game is just going to have to be, I'm going to have to kind of get a feel for it. I'm not 100%, but what I would recommend to you is just whatever you feel like you're lacking, grab. So if you think you need more crit, maybe come down here. If you think more ES, grab some more ES. You don't have to go straight for this tree as well. You can kind of stick to this one and just start grabbing things as you need until you're ready for the full transition into the end game. And when I would transition to this is probably once I get the Wrathpith and some decent energy shield life rares, maybe a decent one as well. So maybe like level 85. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but this is kind of the transition you're going to have to get a feel for as you go through it. I will update this. Obviously, the passage is going to be different, so it's going to be subject to a bit of flexibility, and you're just going to have to bear with it for that one. As for the skills, I'll just go back to the skills here. We have, basically I've kind of put them in the order that you get them. So you go Spark, Unleash, Control, Destruction. And then you'll have Pierce for Act 1 and Act 2. I've written it up here. And when you hit Act 3, you should be able to have grabbed the Branching Bolts here, which gives you Lightning Skills Chain, which means you can drop the Pierce. And then you can just pick up Acceleration on that one. So that's kind of the leveling for that. Same thing here, Flame Wall, Arcane Tempo. Just start with the order, but there's only really one thing in here. So put your Flame Walls up, shoot your Sparks through it. You can get Fortress, I think, in here as well. You can kind of mix and match it, but your Flame Wall will be a little damaged to start. Frostbomb, it's usually pretty insane in Act 1, but it quickly does, lose its drop off maybe Act 2. If you're not speed running, doesn't really matter too much if you use Spark or Frostbomb at the start. Just kind of get a feel for them, but it's always nice to free some of those bosses. Orb of Storms in here as well. Conductivity is going to be changed to Elemental Weakness, but you can just supplement that in for that one. And as for the items, I've just got like the lowest here of everything, but as you go through the axe, just get higher numbers. So this one, spell damage plus skills, same with the focus, bit of life, res, and energy shield on all the other pieces. Maybe a bit of cast speed on the rings and amulet, but again, none of this stuff really matters too much, but it's just like something for you guys to look out for as you're leveling. But just scale the numbers as you level up, but this is kind of the gear that you're going to want to do. And then I've got obviously the end game set up in here as you get to it. So I will put this this whole path of building in the description, so you can click on it and kind of work through it. Just make sure you're changing it as you're going along. You can obviously stay on the leveling ones, but maybe just make sure you're changing the passive tree points here. But I hope that gives you kind of an indication of how to level it. I know I get a lot of questions about it, but yeah, you're just gonna have to try your best with it. I will try update it once we get the passive tree, but if it's not out by the start, just use this and maybe follow what I'm doing, maybe on stream, or maybe my path that PoE Ninja will be up by then. We'll just have to see. But feel free to comment, and I'll try to reply as best I can. I am going to be live on, I think, League Start. Maybe it'll be like an hour late, but you should be able to catch me this weekend. I'm going to be playing pretty much non-stop, so if you are around, you can hop into the stream, see where I'm at, you can ask me for any of my thoughts on any of the changes, and just where I'm kind of at with it, because the way I build characters, I have to get a feel for them. I have to get in there and kind of test out how they're going to actually work. Yeah, thanks guys, hope to see you on the stream if you want to check that out.